Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to discuss concerns about World Eaters. Now, these are ones that I've seen myself, that ones I've seen other people talking about, and general information about World Eaters, that trends that have been giving me a bit of concern, whether it is more about the sort of model range than the rules, because we've only had small leaks on that part so far, but really just in terms of things that I want to talk about because I am concerned. However, before we go into my concerns, let's discuss why World Eaters, and ultimately I think that World Eaters were the right choice to make when it came to the two final Chaos God specific legions, that being World Eaters and Emperor's Children. So a lot of people expected Emperor's Children, mainly because in a lot of different codexes and different articles, there was a lot of rumours that Fulgrim had been active. And this led a lot of people to go, oh wow, we're going to get Fulgrim next, and then, whoop, nope, it's going to be Angron. Though keep in mind, I do believe Angron's name was on a whiteboard in one of the reveals of when people get interviewed, so there were hints that he was coming as well. Berserkers, I would argue, are far more iconic plastic kit. I never owned any Noise Marines, though I think as the channel we do, but I certainly owned Berserkers. I'd imagine a lot of Chaos Space Marine players, many back in the day, would have had at least a, one kit of Berserkers sometime in their life. I could be overly presumptuous on that. But still, the new Chaos Space Marine models can use the old upgrade kits for the Sonic Marines, but Berserkers were their own kit and they really were beginning to show their age. Emperor's Children playstyle, I'd also argue, would be a little bit too similar to Thousand Suns and Death Guard, where you had great range units, which is good, and some good combat ones. I know they're 30k specific ones there. I think they're called the Phoenix Guard, for their Terminators, are very cool and I really like them. And then you'd have a Primarch who was great in combat and had some psychic, but when it comes to Angron, it's going to be all combat, and that's probably going to be the same with World Eaters as well. It's going to be unbridled ferocity, and I think that compared to Death Guard and Thousand Suns is very, very different, and I quite like it. It's been over half a decade now since the last Primarch, that being Mortarion. I think that was just after 8th edition came out, which was 2017. So you're probably talking about August, September, October. I don't remember the exact month for that. But it's been half a decade now, so it's time for another Primarch, I feel. Time to shake things up. An argument could be made that if you had Fulgrim come back, then we'd definitely have some cool tabletop moments and lore for confrontation between him and Guilliman. After all, it was Fulgrim that did sort of put Guilliman into his coma. I think he stabs him Poison Blade. And then, yeah, it might be interesting to have Fulgrim come back to possibly finish off the job, Guilliman to really exact a bit of revenge. But no, we got Angron. And what Angron kind of brings to lore is a massive wild card. And in the setting, I think that's kind of good. We've got a lot of schemers, got a lot of people thinking and stuff. Nope, this is going to be one of the most possibly chaotic, as I said, wild card characters out there, and it's going to be an interesting, very much different foil to the stoic persona of the line. If that does happen, we don't know, big rumours on that side, but yeah, I just think with all those in regards, I would argue Angron is possibly the right choice along with the World Eaters. Although I do know some people who are like, a bit of a boring character because he is just all rage. Well, we'll see what they do with him and the World Eaters when it comes to lore-wise, but in terms of tabletop, I think it's a great choice and variety for the Chaos Space Marines. Unbridled ferocity in combat, bring it on. Now to start with some of the concerns, and the first thing is we're going to discuss what we've seen so far. And this is a very familiar formula, if this is everything that we're going to get. And I compare it to the Thousand Suns release. So firstly we have the Primarch Angron. In terms of HQs, we get a special character in the Lord Invoctus and Lord on Juggernaut for HQ choice. We have troops and Berserkers and Jackals. We then have elites as the 8-bound and the Exalted 8-bound. Now, where this really matches in terms of Thousand Suns is Primarch Magnus, HQ, special character in Araman, and then generic one Exalted Sorcerer. Troops, we have Rubik Marines and Zangors. And then elites, we had Scarab Cult Terminators, Zangor Shaman, and Zangor Enlightened. Now this was released for the Thousand Suns back in 2016 in December, and at the time very well received because it was a whole new range of chaos stuff. We hadn't really seen something quite like this, and it was a real breakout for chaos because although we had many of the Legion specific stuff for Space Marines, we hadn't quite had it for Chaos, and this was a real beginning moment for them there. However, since then, the range for the Thousand Suns has begun to show its age, and a lot of people are saying that it does need to be expanded upon. And then of course we had the Death Guard release come out afterwards, and it was a lot more extensive. You had more characters, sport characters within there, you had demon engines, quite a few of them in fact, and it just felt like the Thousand Suns really got left out in that one, that they didn't get as much, and really that kind of hurt what people expected when it came to a Legion specific one. A bit of envy on the Thousand Sun side when you looked at Death Guard. And ultimately, now that we're all these years later, the World Eaters seem to be far more similar to the Thousand Suns than the Death Guard. And when you set a precedent with the Death Guard having so much there, you really want to follow on with that than going back to just the Thousand Suns one. Now I understand why. When the Death Guard came out, they were sort of the big new addition force, they were part of the starter set, Thousand Suns weren't. And so maybe in some way you could argue that, but really when you had this sort of Legion specific side for the Death Guard, I really think World Eaters could have done with that. And now on to the part that we don't officially have, and that is the World Eaters points value leak. Now when this came out there was quite a lot of trepidation about it, whether it was real or not, but the one thing that added a lot of validity is that I believe it came out before the 8 bounds were announced, and a lot of people then said, wow, this seems a lot more legitimate because of that. The other thing that makes a lot of people question is that one, it's a very, very small roster seeming to be missing a lot of key units that kind of would have made sense, and it is page 88, which is either suspicious or really thematic. For now we'll treat it as real, mainly because of that idea that they did actually announce the 8 bound from it originally, and so we're going to just talk about what that means. Now, one of the big things that disappointed people is that it looks like we're not going to get Red Butchers. Now, Red Butchers are the sort of dedicated World Eaters Terminators, and people are really excited about this because the Thousand Suns ones with Scarab Cult and the Death Guard 2 that they have really are quite awesome models, and people are looking forward to that. But no, we are getting the 8 bound and Exalted 8 bound. Now, I believe this was actually a creative choice. They didn't want to go down the route of being so similar, which was your dedicated troop choice, then your cults, then your Terminator. They wanted something different, but I really think Possessed were a bad call, especially when it came to World Eaters. The reason being for that is the Butcher's Nails is what really drives a lot of the insanity when it comes to World Eaters, and when you've got both the insanity explained by either Butcher's Nails and Possessed, it just seems really, really odd. I would have preferred some really, really dangerous Terminators, these iconic Red Butchers. I think them as insane Terminators, ripping everything apart, would have been awesome. The other one that seems very suspicious is no Chaos Lord on foot except for Karn, and that is unusual. Games Workshop have made a mistake in the past with the Chaos Space Marine Codex, where essentially they were removing the Jump Lord model and they weren't replacing it, so they said, look, we're just not going to have one or an option within the Codex. People really, really outcried on that one, and thus they did give the option back in as a sort of download for the players. It could be the case of this was written before that case, and I'd still find that really, really odd. A Chaos Lord on foot is a staple within many Chaos forces. Now, I know Thousand Suns, it's more they have their Exalted Sorcerers, but you can have them on foot or on Disc of Tzeentch. Not having that for World Eaters just seems very, very odd to me. That part of me makes me question this page more than anything, but again, there are concerns that that could also just be true because they didn't have a dedicated model for it, they just didn't include it. I would imagine if that is the case and these are real, then there would probably be an errata or a downloadable sheet for Chaos Lords on foot to go with World Eaters. And really this again pushes the point that we seem to be getting a more Thousand Suns release than a Death Guard one, and it feels like a large step back from what we really, really hoped or expected. As they went forward, they went from Thousand Suns to Death Guard, and now it's just going back again, which is, in my mind, not ideal. And on to my final thoughts when it comes to the World Eaters, and could this be a partial release? And what I mean by that is a timed release. Now, we've seen this a few times now with Games Workshop, and it has annoyed a few people, where they bring out a codex and brand new models, only to bring out a new codex and models a short time period later. And the two examples I'm going to use here are Adeptus Sororitas and Lumineth Realm Lords. So Adeptus Sororitas released, and correct me if I'm wrong in any of my times here or dates, around November 2019 with a new model range, a new codex and everything. Then they got a new codex and a whole bunch of other models in June 2021, which was around 19 months separate from each other. But when we look at the Lumineth Realm Lords, which was first released I believe in September 2020 with our first model range, however a new Battle Tome and models were released in March 2021, which is around 6 months later. Again, I could be wrong in that one, but that seems really odd. And so much so that I believe they've just now got another Battle Tome. So that was one in 2020, 2021 and 2022. You almost think they were Space Marines at that rate. So could the World Eaters be a partial release? And ultimately I'm going to say that it seems unlikely. Adeptus Sororitas and Lumineth Realm Lords seem like bigger new Force releases, while World Eater seems more of an extension of Chaos, same as Thousand Suns. Adeptus Sororitas was an in-demand big rebrand of the Adeptus Sororitas, which was a big thing and it was very cool. And the Lumineth Realm Lords were almost like the new High Elves, which was also really wanted as well. World Eaters, although very popular and much wanted, again just feel like an extension of Chaos. I would not be surprised with the points leak that we have, if it is real, that we are going to see some real FAQs and data sheets come out to really keep on top of that codex, because the rules might be fine, but the amount of models may not be. So that is it for my concerns about the World Eaters. Am I overthinking this, or am I unfounded on these? Or do you think that there might be actual concerns that, yeah, we're going to get a World Eaters Codex, but it might be a little bit too little and not giving us all the options we maybe want as a brand new force? Are we going back from the Death Guard to the Thousand Suns when it comes to releases, and do the World Eaters deserve better? Let me know in the comments, please like, share, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.